call to order the regular meeting for the Leominster Conservation Commission for September 24th, 2019. We'll start with our continued hearings. The first one is going to be continued. It's for the 449 Wachusett Street, Assessors Map 381, Parcel 1, DEP 199-1095. The applicant has requested a continuance, so that'll be continued to our October 8th meeting. Our second hearing is for 282 Day Street, Parcel 564, Map 564, Parcel 85. Do we have a DEP file number on that?
We received it, don't have it with me, so I left it in the office.
Okay. And that is for Doyle Pond. That applicant also asked for a continuance, so that'll be put on our October 8th meeting. Next, any objection to opening up these next two together? Okay. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, to be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by James Xeris for the development of a single-family residential house lot within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone, address Lot 3, Mary Ave Extension, Map 419, Lot 23, DEP 199-1086, and for construction of 3-lot residential subdivision with associated roadway utilities. The eastern portion project is within a 100-foot wetland buffer zone, address 1157R, Map 419, Lot 23, DEP 199-1085. Is there someone representing the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, good evening. Matt Morrow, representing the applicant in both matters. To update the commission as to what's going on, I did go out on site with Tom Paragallo. We did an extensive analysis of the areas in the that were initially evaluated by Lucas Environmental. We will be filing our own report, and we are also looking into the replication area. We've got some good ideas that we're formulating for the replication area.
Okay.
That we had discussed at the previous meeting.
Okay.
So, I mean, I should be ready with the report actually end of this week, early next week. Okay. So it'll be available in time for the next meeting for everybody to look over.
Okay. I'm assuming you can get it to Angela as soon as possible, so we have time to review it before the next meeting and help speed things up.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from Mr. Morrow on Mary Ave? Okay. All right, we will continue that till the October 8th meeting. At that point, are you going to offer just the report, or are you going to come with a plan if it needs to be revised? If not, how's that all going to kind of go down?
Well, we're going to offer a report.
Okay.
The report's actually going to rebut some of the third-party review.
Okay. Okay. So you'll probably be sticking with the same project plan as before. Okay. That's fine. Very good.
When we do come up with a drawing for the replication area, my client's authorized it to give me to the abutter, who I happen to see is here, so he can review it as well.
Okay.
It's something that's got to be a team effort.
So that's correct.
We're just in the middle of doing it all. There's a lot of information to process. So.
Okay, perfect. Is the replication area going to be on Mr. Xeris' property, or?
It's part of the same wetland system.
Okay.
He's the one that's allowing it because he wants to do what he can to help out the situation.
Okay. Very good. Anything further?
No, sir.
All right. So that'll be continued to the October 8th. Actually, if there's anybody in the audience like to speak on this point. Yes, sir.
I have a question. How is the size of the replication area determined on the Xeris property?
Normally, it's a recommendation from the commission. You know, usually we ask for at least a 1-to-1 or usually a little bit more, sometimes 1.5 to 2 times the area, because sometimes it doesn't always take. So usually what happens is the applicant will come in, say, we're taking out, just an example, 2,000 square feet, we might say we'll replicate 3,000 square feet. Then we require them to have a couple growing periods, and it takes a little bit of time once they do replicate it, but that's usually something that we either recommend or we work with the applicant to, figure that out.
And that's typically based off of an assessment of the site or of the wetlands that are being removed. I'm just curious if wetlands were removed from my property, how is that calculated, or has that been calculated, or will it be calculated to then replicate in those areas?
If I may, Mr.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we do have some data on what was there pre-existing.
Okay.
So we're gonna take that pre-existing, we're gonna show it on the plan, and then, as you were saying, it will do a 2-to-1 replication.
Right. So usually, we'll go back to unless someone actually has hard data, there's a lot of old GIS maps and some things like that. We can get some stuff before your house was being built, so. And like I said, then we kind of figure out, as long as it's replicated in conjunction with the same wetland area and on kind of the same site and stuff like that. It's sometimes a negotiation, but it kind of plays into that.
Okay.
But I will tell you, usually we require a couple years of growing once it's replicated, just to make sure it takes, because it doesn't always take.
Yes, and what'll happen is I'll monitor the site during the regrowth period, submit periodic reports to the commission, and when everybody is satisfied it's regrown, then it would be released. Until then,
Right.
if I see areas that aren't taking, I'll replant, I'll have the area replanted, one of the two, I've done both. That's how it would have to work. So reports would have to be filed, and I'll make sure you're copied on everything whenever that occurs.
Right. So, we always say 2 growing seasons, but we've seen wetlands. We just did one that took half a year, and it really filled in nice, and we were happy with it. So, it all depends on how it catches and how it kind of works that way. So, all right. Anybody else in the audience like to speak on this? All right. I will leave the public hearing open and continue it to the October 8th meeting. Next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There will be a public hearing to consider abbreviated notice of resource area delineation by Matt Morrow Environmental Consulting for the 2190 Trust to evaluate the boundaries of an area subject to Wetlands Protection Act, address Lot E, Orchard Hill Park Drive, map 386, Lot 4-1C, DEP 199-1083.
Mr. Chairman, to update you on that as well, my client does have the revised plans based on the work that I did out on site with Art Allen. Those have been completed. However, I'm still waiting for my client to authorize a release. I'm anticipating that, again, like any time now.
Okay.
I have PDFs that I'm waiting to forward to both Angela and Art.
Okay. So Art Allen was...
He was the third-party reviewer at Ecotech.
Okay. So you've worked with him, and the owner has not released the plans as of yet, and they haven't revised or whatever you're working with.
They've been revised, yes.
Okay. Do you think you'll have them by the next meeting?
I have them now, I'm just waiting for them to be released.
Okay. So it's just a matter of, we hope he releases them by the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, anything you can get to Angela prior to, so we can, usually she'll send us out so we can review them. It saves a lot of time, so.
Absolutely.
All right. So we will continue that till the October 8th meeting. Any commission members have any questions or comments? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this ANRAD? All right. With that, we will continue it to the October 8th meeting.
Thank you very much, guys.
Is that all?
Thank you.
Is that all that you're on here for, Mr. Morrow?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Very good.
Well, Sawtell Road, I'm actually finishing up the report on that. It will be a little longer than I thought it would to finish it, but I will have that also for the next meeting. I'm actually in the process of writing it up now. what I was waiting for was some plans that they had on file. And last Friday, I met with Angela to compare the plans that they gave me for my evaluation to what the commission had approved to ensure that I was reviewing the same plan.
Okay.
Also, Mr. Mar, are you here to represent for Karuki as well for Old Tavern Road?
Actually, yes, I am representing Isaac. I didn't realize that was on the agenda. I didn't notice it. That's my bad. Mr. Karuki is actually commencing his work. I am monitoring that site for the replication. I am in contact with the contractor out of Templeton. What I'll do tomorrow. Did he ever give you that information?
No, so last I spoke to him was before I spoke to you about how he said you were working for him. And when I spoke to him, I explained to him that, the replication area and the site remediation was supposed to be done before the end of spring, which is obviously past. And so I asked him to come to the meeting to discuss further enforcement because he hasn't made any remediation efforts.
See, he doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's here or not. I don't see him.
No, he's not here. So as far as I can tell from my site visits, no remediation has begun, so no work should be beginning at this time.
Okay, so you don't want anything done at all?
I would like to see the remediation plan. That was kind of what was in the enforcement order, was to submit the remediation plan.
Okay. He didn't give me a copy of the enforcement order.
I can send that to you.
He gave me a copy of the plan and said this is what, and I remember I was here with Wesley
Yeah, and I
when
think
he
even
went through
part
the
of
approval
that.
process, so I knew what was approved.
Yeah, for the order of conditions, I believe also, the remediation plan and remediation work was supposed to be done before any other work was taking place. So I'll contact Mr. Kruge, and I know Denise Childs wanted to be left in the loop in this as well.
So you're working for Mr. Karuki on the replication area? Is that
Yes.
on that? Okay.
He hired me to carry out the replication plan and monitor the regrowth.
Okay.
And I'll also give you the contractor that's going to be doing the work.
Yes,
I'll
please.
give you his contact info.
Oh, perfect.
It just dawned on me that he may have not given you the contact info.
Okay. So he hasn't started any work on that? Just
No, he was going to.
He's going
I'm
to.
going to make sure he doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that whole project was contingent on him doing the replication first. You and Angela can work out that timeline on that.
Absolutely.
That's all for me.
It's all Jean? All right, anybody else have any questions on Old Tavern Road? Okay. I think that's it, Mr. Morrow.
All right, thanks, guys. And Angela, thank you.
Thank you.
Angela's always a big help to me, guys. I just want you to know that. Always.
She is to us too.
Huh?
She is to us too.
Oh, yeah. Bye, guys.
Thank
Matt.
you.
Under enforcement, under enforcement, owner of 9 Penny Lane is here. Do we need to address anything
I think everything,
at this point?
now that Mr. Rowe hasn't produced anything. Yeah.
Do you have any questions, sir? Okay. I just wanted to make sure you're not here all night.
No, I appreciate it.
So, like I said, it's really up to them to come up with a plan. And, Angela, do we know if we have, is there data from what was there before? Are we going on to old GIS maps, or do you know?
Old
what-
GIS maps, old plans that were in the file for the houses surrounding it.
Okay.
But there's really nothing for that, for the property specifically that was ever filed.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you don't really have to hang out. That's fine. Angela will keep you abreast of any information that we know of. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have something for Mary Ave, which will hopefully include your parcel there. So, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
All right, moving on to new hearings. We'll do these separately. Do we want to do the NOI first, or do we want to do the RDA first? Doesn't matter. Angie?
I have no preference.
Okay. We'll do it as it is on the agenda. So pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, there'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent for Pierce Pond Realty Trust, represented by Hannigan Engineering, for expansion of existing house with a 2-story addition and the construction of a garage. The proposed work is within areas subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, including bordering vegetated wetlands and bordering land subject to flooding. Address 19 Roach Ave, map 262, 18A. Do we have any DEP file numbers yet?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I looked just before we came over.
Definitely, I'll check.
Yeah. I'll throw this up to the people at home.
Thank you for coloring this.
Yeah.
It's so
A lot of lines on
helpful.
it. I was looking at it going like, you know.
You like colors?
It would make it so much easier if it was color. So this is kind of going a little bit backwards, but for the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. So at the site walk, we all looked at the site for the building. We're going to go over the RDA stuff, but once the building is up, which is the main box, then on the back of it, that would be part of the building that was over. You can kind of see the foundation that was halfway through, that was tilted through the, I'll up here, do it this way. Point to it. So if you remember correctly from the site walk, there was the deck was in this area here, and this set of stairs is the same set of stairs. The deck is going to remain. This is the section of foundation that was tilted, and there's sonotubes underneath there. And how that actually structurally ended up working at the end of the day will be up to the architect. But the intent basically is that at this point, presumably with the RDA, this part of the house is nearing completion of construction. He's starting to work on this stuff here. So that would be the foundation work, whatever was required, would be basically excavation, backfill, everything kept the same grade. Probably actually pick up a little bit of extra floodplain area because you're going to remove that section of foundation that's tilting over it now. In this area here, this is the proposed garage. This is the grading area that's been hatched here to show you where the floodplain is being altered. So that would be floodplain alteration. That is also captured in this detail here by elevation and area on the plan. And then this is the floodplain compensation area, which is part of the subdivision. And the slivers in this area here are intended to show where we're going to add to the already approved floodplain replication or compensation. And then once again, these slivers over here shown on the side are the area and elevation of each component. So basically, the work in the buffer zone then, when we talk about that, the 100-foot buffer zone is here. The flagging of the wetlands was done by Chuck Karen. We would put in a row of straw wattles and silt fence as shown in the plan, and basically the area inside would be cleaned up as part of the notice of intent, loam seeded, etc. Pavement would be removed, so that's a reduction in impervious area because the existing driveway reduces. So that's really the summation of the work we'll be doing on notice of intent.
I have a question about the floodplain. Can we do it on the subdivision? Seeing this is a different piece of property, I guess, is my question.
Same owner.
Same owner as that?
Yeah, as long as this, the owner of the subdivision, even if they were different owners, if the owner of the subdivision grants permission for the owner of the lot to do the replication or the compensation on his land by area and elevation,
Right.
and they match, yeah, that can be, yes. It doesn't have to be directly on the same property.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from commission members at this time?
I forget if it was mentioned during the sidewalk, but all the equipment is being kept off, like, in street side, correct?
That's part of the RDA. That would happen as part of the notice of intent. Now, the equipment would be allowed to be done in this area.
Okay, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the RDA, there's no alteration of anything, it's
Correct.
just building up on the
Correct.
existing footprint.
Yes.
Yeah.
is the replication area? Just for my, I remember the site.
So if you go on the subdivision road to the cul-de-sac,
Yeah.
it's over towards the Route 2 side.
Okay.
Behind lot 3, I believe it is.
Okay.
Okay. So, and
Wasn't there already some floodplain? I'm trying to remember, it's been a while
That
since
was-
we reviewed.
that was an area that's not in the floodplain that we're bringing down to make up the area for the floodplain work we're doing on the subdivision.
That's what I mean, so it's
Yeah.
in that same,
Correct. So
it's that
this
same
is
area.
this is the compensation area, that's part of the subdivision plans.
Okay.
This is what it is. The little hatching area is the extra
Added.
area that we're
Okay.
gonna do for this particular use.
So it's actually,
It's in the same area.
so you're just adding to that?
Correct.
You're not-
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent?
I just have a question.
Yes, sir. State your name, please.
It's Ray Ruffagerri,
Okay.
758 Marion Ave. Is there any work proposed in the pond or at the shoreline or any type of dredging with this
No.
particular project? No. Okay, thank you.
Would the, where's your limit of work? Is that what's?
That's the
show-
shade, that's it, that's the shaded area.
Okay.
This would be where the
Erosion
road
control
control
is?
would be.
So you're pulling close, but you're not gonna go right to the.
Correct.
To the pond.
I mean, we were out there, it's all mowed right to the edge anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just for, during construction, we'll have that as a protective barrier, and then once construction's over, they'll continue to use the land that's being used now.
Okay. As part of this, NOI, I mean, obviously, when we're at the site walk, you know, obviously, construction of the building will be, most of that work's gonna be obviously street level and on the building. I mean, even the garage, there was this retaining wall, right? That's a retaining wall right behind the
In the
garage
back,
there.
yeah, right in
I know it's
the
covered in bushes, but,
Right.
yeah. I guess my question is, what is the plan to do anything in the lower lawn or lower area for construction once?
I think that there probably will be disturbance that area, basically, if we have to move footings and install additional footings, there will be equipment down that area.
Okay.
Once it's done, it will be all loamed and seeded and landscaped, I presume, back to what it is now.
Okay.
Might be some additional plantings, but it's not gonna be, Peter's here too, could talk about that as well.
So really, the only construction
Just
down there
stay
would
on.
pretty much be that deck area.
Right.
If he decides to put a sunroom or do whatever.
Right. And that, the only changes that we made at grade would be relative to the support structure for it. He's not proposing to close it in,
Yeah, it would be
either
office on.
sonotubes or something similar, yeah.
Okay. And the footprint looks like it's about what's there now.
Right.
That'll stay.
That was the intent.
Okay. And where the garage is, that's all up at that higher elevation?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna sit right up on that retaining
So
wall.
on this side of the garage,
Street
right in
level.
here,
Yeah.
that's gonna be about the same elevation it is right now. As that area drops off onto the side woods area, that's where it'll
That's
be
your
filled up
fill.
and rated up back up. So
Okay.
that's the filling that we'd be doing next to the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, this is the replication we would need
Right.
to do to compensate
So
for
that's
that.
what you're doing, okay. And what's the plan, just loam and seed the side once it's completed, or on that
Yeah.
side of the garage? I know it's pretty wooded over there, so.
Right. As you remember from the meeting, Peter's gonna try to save as many of those trees as he can. So this may change, but this would be like the worst case scenario.
Okay.
It may be that he puts a smaller garage on, or maybe that he doesn't put a garage, but it's gonna depend upon how many trees need to come down in that area,
Right.
or how many are worth saving.
city water and city sewer, correct? There's no septic.
And we're working on bringing gas down the street as well. So we
Okay.
probably have to try and feed gas to this, so that's one of the utilities that we list in the RDA.
Okay,
Or actually, the notice of intent.
okay. What about, on the house, roof drains, not roof drains, but gutters, anything
I
like
think
that?
it's just shedding.
Just
No,
shed?
you're gonna put gutters on it, you know, or, it's gonna, I mean, it was a roof before, so
Right,
it shed it, at that point, I think it shed front and back, maybe mostly back, the way it was tipping. But,
okay,
you know, I don't think there's any additional measures being undertaken.
okay.
I don't think a yard drain or a roof drain pit would work in this situation, because groundwater's
Groundwater's
right
pretty
there.
low, yeah.
Right.
I just
Right,
don't
yeah.
wanna see a
Right, at the
point flow right to the pond off the
At
roof.
the outflow, at wherever it comes down, if it is a downspout stone to
Yeah.
dissipate the velocity.
Just so it doesn't,
Okay,
okay, I don't wanna see a stream to the brook, to the pond, that's all. What's the difference in
It's a net, should be a net increase, slight increase.
79? Is that what it says here?
Yeah.
Duration compensation, okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Anybody else in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time? And final time? Any objection to closing the public hearing?
I think we should wait until we have DEP comments.
Okay, that's fine.
So we don't
Um,
have DEP member.
Because we gathered correct, we don't have a DEP number. Okay. We will continue it to the next meeting, and we'll wait to see if there's DEP comments. And we'll wait for a DEP final before we vote on it.
I tried calling before I came over, well,
Okay.
before 5.
Okay,
They're very short-handed right now.
Yes, they just lost Megan.
Yeah,
Yeah, another one.
from what I heard, yeah. So it might be a couple meetings.
well, I can't control that. So, all right, we'll leave the public hearing open, waiting for DEP comments.
Can you shoot
And a
for the 8th?
DEP number. Our next meeting will be October 8th, that is correct.
Okay.
All right, our next hearing, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, amending to a public hearing for request for determination from Pierce Pond Realty Trust, represented by Hannigan Engineering in regards to whether the work of constructing a structure above the foundation and leveling the first floor deck within 50-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetlands and a pond is subject to Wetlands Protection Act. Address is 19 Roach Ave, map 262, 18A. And I'm assuming still no DEP on this one as well.
There's no DEP number needed for this.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
So I think we.
So prior to doing the work that would be presumably allowed in the notice of intent, under the RDA, what we'd like to do is basically leave everything the way it is, put the erosion control in, and build on top of the existing foundation, the proposed building. It's really the extent of the work that we're proposing. As we discussed, the site work, all the materials would be up at the street level. We prevent or keep any no earthwork would be done on the lower side. You know, the deep work is walking around, obviously,
Right.
but no earth disturbance is the intent. And then from there, once the house is up and underway, hopefully we get the DEP number from them and can close that and then continue on with that part of the project.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Erosion control is gonna go in place
As part
for
of
this
Yeah,
at the same location as it
Yes.
would be with the NOI.
correct.
Okay. questions or comments from commission members?
The only thing that I would ask is that, any materials that are left on site, sand or fill or anything like that, if they're not contained in a truck, and they're on the ground, that they at the very least be surrounded by something and possibly just covered at the end of the day if they're gonna be left overnight, just because we are so close to that pond. If we get one of these giant hurricane rainstorms that we seem to be getting all the time, I just wouldn't wanna see it, flow down the street or, all over the site, but
I'm not
that's
sure if
the
we're
only-
anticipating bringing any materials except for maybe when they get ready to pour the basement floor. Are you gonna do that as part of this, or are you gonna do that as part of the,
Oh yeah, I guess
next phase?
most of the fill would be part of the NOI,
Yeah.
correct? So, okay. Okay, and that comment's probably not relevant to the
it's
RDA
all
at least.
It's all relevant.
To the NOI it is, but
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
I'm good.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I do have a comment from the building inspector.
Yes.
He's concerned because they don't have an active building permit right now. They're not supposed to be building at all, and one of the commissioners did bring it to my attention that it looked like there was a lot of new work done there, and then so he inspected that and he wanted the commission to know that they do not have an active building permit until we approve the DOA.
Okay.
which is what we're here for.
Yeah.
And I think if you remember correctly, I don't think he ever said that he had a building permit, but he had a demolition and renovation permit.
Correct.
Is that, am I wording that correctly?
Yeah, a rehab permit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're holding up the building permit until we vote.
Yes,
With
on
a
the
yes vote,
RDA.
then they'll issue
Yes.
an active building permit.
Technically with a no vote.
Yeah. One of those double negative
Yeah.
things. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I will open it to the audience. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA? Yes, sir.
Just another question. I have no objection to the project, so my only concern is the stormwater impact, the runoff to the pond, because my house is the oldest house up there, been there for 120 years, and with all the development that's taking place in the area, I'm beginning to get issues in my cellar. So I just wanted to ask the question, what's going to happen to all the runoff, and how is it going to be detained or retained, or is it going to just hit the pond? And, you know, like you mentioned in these rainstorms that we've had for the past couple of years, that's what I'm seeing an impact. So I'll leave it at that. If you could just take that into consideration and just answer the question of what, if there is any increase in stormwater runoff to the pond due to this development or anything in the future.
This parcel here is really the limit of the focus of this meeting. So
That's Johnny Bichette's old house, right?
right, so the house itself is essentially the same footprint. It's going to have a second story on it, so there shouldn't be any increase in the runoff from this lot. The subdivision that's being developed, which is a separate project, has a separate order of conditions already that they're starting construction on. They have full drainage systems on that to not only reduce the peak rate of runoff to the pond, but also to provide cleaning of the water before they discharge to the pond. That's all part of
Yeah,
that whole process.
I think the cleaning is an issue.
Right.
The issue that concerns me is the amount that you said you're going to reduce that.
In the subdivision, the peak rate's reduced. Okay, now that's not volume, that's rate. So the rate decreases, but what you do is you analyze before you develop, and you analyze after it is developed or would be developed under the plan stage. And you have to compare the pre and post peak rates of runoff to make sure you're not causing any erosion. And then the intent of the regulations is that if you're matching or reducing the rate, that the receiving water has the ability to dissipate the additional volume over time. So you take the same amount, you take an increased amount of water and you allow it to go to the pond or to the stream or whatever you're designing to at the same rate, and therefore the channels that are going through that area have the ability to handle that same flow and not cause erosion.
Okay.
It sounds technical, but
It's a very, it's a very sensitive area, we
understand.
understand.
no.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I mean, Mr. Hannigan did, say the subdivision, this was kind of not an add-on, because this is a separate project all to itself.
Yeah, this is just concerning the house.
Correct.
Right.
Well, right now, we're talking about the house, the NOI, the first hearing we talked about was more of the site, and that's kind of why I asked him about roof drains and how's it gonna drain to the thing, and, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at the next meeting if there's other commission members, but the subdivision itself is a separate project, and in that, there's retention basins, there's an entire stormwater system. It's been, I do apologize, it's been like 3 or 4 years since we did that one, so I don't remember we did a pretty comprehensive site visit there, and it took us quite a while to get that kind of squared away, so I can tell you that has been addressed for the new subdivision going in. How it's cleaned, how it's handled, how it gets discharged into the pond, this and that, so. But this is separate.
So the rate of runoff will stay the same.
Correct. You're right. Because usually there's a retention ponds that all the drainage goes to. And it's obviously in there to, basically to clean it, or let any erosion or sediment settle into that, things like that. And that's how we can control up to whatever it's designed to, whether it's a 100-year storm or a 50-year storm or whatever at the time. So, but that'll be all inputted. That'll all be constructed during the subdivision portion of the project. So, which I'm assuming will start soon, from what I'm told. But they have a permit and they have an order of conditions for that project. Anybody else like to speak on this RDA? Do I have an objection to closing the public hearing? I now declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a recommendation from the agent?
Yes, I recommend that we issue a negative determination 3 with the added conditions that a site inspection to inspect the erosion controls will be conducted. And then the agent will obviously be notified when any work on the deck is taking place due to the fact that it's within the 50-foot, which is a non-exempt area.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Do I have a motion for a -3 with the added conditions from our agent?
I'll make a motion that we issue a -3 determination with the added conditions that Angela just stated.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who was the other one?
The last meeting, I think they
I just, I didn't have that.
she has a bunch of index ones, and they have the,
I'm waiting for comment back from them. I realized what messages there. Thanks. Okay.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 amended, to be a public hearing to consider an RDA for Longstone Limited Partnership, represented by Whitman and Bingham Associates LLC, regarding whether the proposed improvements and restoration of a dredged area along the north side of Nashua River Dike and an overgrowth removal from the dike is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, address off Commercial Road, map 567, parcel 24. Is there anybody here from?
Yes, Anthony was supposed to be here, but originally our meeting was going to be a lot longer, so I told him to come a little bit later.
Okay,
But
that's
he should
fine.
be here. Sorry.
Okay, so we'll wait on him, because obviously I know there was a little site block and
Yeah.
blah, 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 so. We can hold off, that's fine. Sir, which hearing you here for?
Regarding Darren Aho with Edgewater and dealing with 45 Summer Street, the mill
Okay.
version over there.
It's an
Okay.
extension permit.
Any objection to moving that next on the agenda?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, 45 Summer Street, 199-1038. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm Darren with Edgewater. I'm here, Cougar Capital. Dan Botwinick asked me to come and speak to. I'm not sure, like, was it Angela that was
Yeah, that's me.
out there? So, we had, what we have is a extension on the order of conditions, requesting for that, and then also just to, make sure that we're on the same page with you as far as everything with the erosion control measures that, are in place over there now, so.
So basically what had happened was this project was approved back in September 2016 by the Conservation Commission. Unfortunately, there was some hand changing, some management movement. So they did start work without alerting my office. There's kind of a slip up between the building department and because the building department did issue their building permits. The erosion controls were in place, though. I went out there, I inspected them. When I was reviewing the file, I noticed that it does expire on the 29th. This project is also a really great project for the city. It's a redevelopment project. It's going to create a lot of housing for our community.
Where is this exactly?
On Summer Street, kind of by Carter Park, like behind, that road that sneaks behind there.
Oh, that old factory.
Yeah, yes, the old factory. And there's the very steep slope that leads down. I believe it's the Manu Song is right there.
Yep.
So
I remember that project now.
So I went out to the site a couple times. I had met with the site manager and I met with the two site managers, Tim Latert and another gentleman, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And they kind of showed me the site. They apologized to because it happens all the time. We see it happen all the time here. So they have the erosion controls in place. Everything's going smoothly there, but unfortunately they're not going to finish the work in the next 4 days. So I recommended that they get an extension permit for 3 years.
Okay.
So that they're able to continue to work.
What has been done so far?
There's a dumpster pad out back that's, close to the river.
Yeah.
And that's a concern right there, so right there, I don't know if you want pictures, but I did snap some pictures right before I came over here, but what we did was put, there's a wattle and a silt fence, along the fence that's out there, and then wrapping back up to the building, and then inside of that, we have riprap that's running up to a wall there that, concrete block walls that are supporting the dumpster pad that's going to be in place. Right at this time, we haven't poured the concrete on that, but the wall and everything is in the riprap, that's all built. It's in place, so,
And stabilized.
yeah.
Do you have pictures?
I do on my phone that's dead in my office right now.
Okay.
But before when they put the erosion controls in, they had to do some tree clearing, some tree trimming. I don't know if you remember. I believe there's a telephone pole that needs to be moved a little.
I remember that. Yeah.
And they did have a couple questions because I think before they had approved very small crushed stone because they didn't think they'd be able to get machinery back there due to safety issues. But the on-site manager believes he will be able to put bigger riprap in. And I told him just to add that as part of the COC package because it's going to be better for the area. It's going to hold a lot better than a little crushed stone, especially with that slope there. But last time I went there, the wall was built and they were getting ready to do the dumpster pad. I think they're also working on the inside of the building as well, so their energies are kind of spent everywhere. But I did stress them how important it was for them to make sure everything is stabilized before the end of the day. They've been really, really compliant. So.
Do you have pictures?
Yeah, I do. Come around here. So that's what you can scroll like, I had a few that I rotated that. basically shows the situation.
Okay, yeah, I remember, I'm trying to get, because the dumpster used to sit right here.
Yeah.
That's where it used to
Yeah.
sit.
And then,
And behind the dumpster, it just kind of sloped off.
yeah, that's, in that area back there behind
Okay.
the,
Yeah,
right there. And then, once you get down there, that's what we have down.
that's
And this is-
behind that wall?
Yeah, and this is wrapping right back up to the building right here,
Okay,
so. And the one block that's standing up there is just to support the fence at the moment. And that's further back.
mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of homeless tents back
Yeah,
there when we
yeah.
originally.
Yeah, before we put the fence up, that was one of the major things, is make sure we get the fence securing the site.
All that pavement was existing, correct?
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Yeah.
So the only construction on the outside is this
Yeah, at the moment,
block
yes.
and pad
Yeah.
area.
And that's what, as far as any construction that'll be threatening the river, that's the bulk of it right there.
Okay.
And we envision being, or we will be done, by the end of the year with anything to do with outside.
Yeah. Now, you reviewed the orders of conditions. Again, I remember being the sidewalk, I remember approving this.
As of
every-
right now,
so
we're completely compliant.
Everything's
Right,
been
yeah.
fine, it's just the size of stone
Yeah, just the size of
dimensions.
stone, which I felt was a minor change.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I mean, it's in the right spot, the wall was approved.
Yeah, everything.
I just can't remember all of them.
Yep, the wall was approved as on the plans. There was a plan modification submitted to the planning board, but that was for across the road, which is out of our jurisdiction. But that was really the only change, and that doesn't affect us.
Do any other commission members like to see the pictures? It's okay if
Oh, sure.
pictures.
If we hand around your phone.
I know, right?
Basically, to update the commission, the site, Liz, I'm not sure if you were on the commission at the time. Well,
No,
it's
this is
3
actually,
years ago.
funny enough, I've been by there the other day, so.
Okay.
I know what it looks like, 'cause that's the correct.
Behind, there's one of those pictures shows the slope.
Oh, I see.
It's a very, very steep slope.
Down like that, yeah.
So there was obviously a lot of concern with the construction, going down to the brook and whatnot. I know we spent quite a bit of time back there, worrying about trash and erosion into the brook and things like that.
Right.
Um,
You wanna-
I just don't, I
Thank you.
don't remember having a
Yeah.
wall, but obviously, if
Well,
it's on the
those
plan,
are
it's on the
later
plan.
table, yeah, it's in the plan.
You know what I mean, that's
It's
fine.
important to that, so.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All right. Do I have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend that the Conservation Commission vote tonight to issue a 3-year extension permit for the project at 45 Summer Street, DEP number 1991071.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to issue a 3-year extension permit for the project at 45 Summer Street, DP number 199-1038, correct?
Do I have a second on that?
A second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. New business. Whitman and Bingham.
That's what's in
That's
the
Anthony.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll wait on him. Certificates of compliance, 141 Lincoln Street, DEP 199-1072.
So, I spoke with Mr. Christopher about data sheets he wants submitted. I didn't have a chance to scan them in, unfortunately, I
Okay.
apologize. But I did review them. There are quite a bit of facultative as well as species, so it is showing, the sensitive ferns, sedge, and club moss, jewelweed that are growing in the area. The commission wants to take a moment to review this.
Because we were concerned with the type of
Yeah, with the
vegetation in
steep-
the wetland.
Yeah, making sure it wasn't upland. He did put a little table in the front. There is not a lot of upland.
Okay. I'm gonna have to refer to you because I'm not a vegetation expert. I know the big ones of wetland vegetation, but.
Those are all wetlands. All of the ones she mentioned.
Well, those are, but I'm saying, she said there's a chart and,
Yeah,
you
there's a
know.
chart, and I've been out to the site, and I am confident it's been rough,
I mean, I remember the pictures, it
it's
looked
extremely vegetated.
vegetated, it looked like it was complete. Again, I'm not a vegetation expert when it comes to the differentials between wetland and upland. I think most of it was jewelweed, if I can remember from the picture.
Yeah, most of it looked like jewelweed, but behind that you can really see the moss, obviously, because it's growing on the rocks and the tree
Yeah.
stems.
Okay. I remember the pictures from last.
Yeah.
Was that last meeting or the meeting before?
Um,
We saw those.
I can't remember, but.
I think
It was the
remember
last
pictures.
meeting, yeah.
I think I remember seeing
wanted-
pictures,
I don't like to review.
naturally.
Did you want to pass me the candy basket?
Do you-
I'm sure Liz likes something.
What kind of conservation?
I kind of would, but.
Do we have a recommendation from our agent?
I recommend that we issue a certificate of compliance for 141 Lincoln Street, DEP number 199-1072, as they have complied with their permit.
Okay. I'll wait until everybody has a chance to review that.
That's a lot of jewelweed.
Well, I remember there was the majority, like I just
That's
remember
a
the
lot.
pictures you had, it was the majority of that, so.
We closed everything now, it's insane.
Yeah,
That's all I have to go back to.
it's just everywhere. It takes over.
Yeah, jeez. It's a forest.
There's like one sensitive certain plant, and then just the jewelweed all around it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like zoomed in on the fern. This big spanning picture for the, it's good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP 199-1072?
I will make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 141 Lincoln Street, DEP 199-1072.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. 1145 Central Street, DEP 199-1071. Is that the Bolio property? Okay. What were we waiting on?
So this is the new one. I've been going out there for a while, since, middle of August, because Earthwork Solution had done the work, and he called me out there. He wanted me to see the site while he did it. After he did it, and then again after he did, a couple weeks after. So basically, they removed, if you remember, some of the questions weren't here, but basically this gentleman had paved up to basically the banking of an area. No permits were required. So what the commission had him do, they had issued an enforcement order, and then he supplied an NOI where he removed, I forget the exact square footage, but he removed a portion of it, revegetated it, mulched it so that, it would grow back. He also did the wildflower seeding on the other side of the property, which is growing in very nicely.
Now, I remember up against the banking where the parking lot was on the Graham and Central Street corner.
Yes.
Did we require him to do anything?
That's where he had planted the wildflower seed
Just
mix.
right at the top, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
or at the top and kind of down the banking. JJ did
Because
add
we-
more to
Yes, we
stabilize
didn't want
it.
it, because I think we didn't want them to touch it because it was pretty steep and.
Yeah, so he was able to get some down the banking a little as well, and then he had a whole bag of it,
Right.
didn't require a whole bag, so he actually did more vegetated on the other side as well.
Okay.
Unfortunately, pictures are on my other device.
I did drive by the site, I
But
did
it
not
looks-
walk on the site.
Yeah.
I did notice the area where the tree trunk and that we asked to be re-vegetated, I guess. I didn't, I did look up against the banking, but it was such a small area, it was just hard to.
I feel that they did a more than I was expecting satisfactory
Okay.
job, judging by the history of the lot.
Okay.
In my opinion, he's completely complied with the order of conditions.
Okay. So the big ones was vegetate the banking and the
And that
top
area where the
thing,
tree is.
and then the area by the tree.
Yeah, I think it looks very nice.
And it's all like I said, I saw some vegetation, but
Yeah.
it's,
He did some special the plantings that we had required, and then he kind of went above and beyond because he had the whole bag of seed anyways. He was like, I'm just gonna, is it okay if I do the seed
right,
as well on the other side? I'm like, yeah, more vegetation the better.
okay. No other works required at this point?
None, just the COC.
Okay. I'm assuming that is your recommendation at this point?
That is.
Okay, do I have a motion to issue a COC, Certificate of Compliance, for 1145 Central Street, DEP 199-1071?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance to 1145 Central Street, DEP number 199-1071.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. Communications, Roach Ave. What-
I just didn't take that off there.
Oh. Okay.
Fully honest, I didn't take it out there. Can we take a 2-minute break before we go into anything else?
Yes, we can
Please.
take a 2-minute break, that's fine. Thank you. All right, we will go to our new hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 amendment, there will be a public hearing to consider an RDA for Longstone Limited Partnership, represented by Whitman and Bingham, regarding whether the proposed improvement and restoration of a degraded area along northern side of Nashua River Dike and overgrowth removal from the dike is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, off Commercial Road, map 567, parcel 24. Do we have representing the applicant?
My name is Anthony Cleves. I'm with Whitman and Bingham Associates. Here on behalf of Longstone Limited Partnership. Also here this evening is David Gagney of Longstone Limited Partnership. What I handed out, a couple things to help you get an idea of where we are. So the first image there is from Leominster GIS. Try and orient you. So we're at the Mall of Whitney Field area. And so a point of reference is the Sears Auto Building up here, which you can kind of see that at the bottom left of your picture. So if you're kind of familiar from the area, if you're coming from, say, the Home Depot side, you're driving through the mall area, and you get to, it's almost like it'd be a fork. You could go left to go around Sears Auto this way, or stay to the right, and then you have the motel on your right here. So this is a little paved area in here, clothes bins, post and rail fence of the hotel. So the area we're looking at is it's a gravel area with some sparse vegetation on it. And that's this area right in here, and that's what the other handouts you have kind of show that. Bottom of the page with the North Nashua River. Again, if you're familiar with the area, you probably understand that we have this existing earthen dike that basically parallels the North Nashua River all the way along the mall area. So, bottom side here, North Nashua River, we have the earthen dike that runs through here. We're just on the developed side of that. What I tried to highlight, it gets very busy. There's a lot of easements and everything in this area, so it can get very confusing. Purple I've shown the riverfront areas. Orange is the floodplain. Again, this area is confusing for floodplain as well. There's two floodplains that we deal with in this mall area. We have the one associated with the North Nashua River, which basically is confined by the dike. So we have a flood line here. And you also have the floodplain associated with the Noosenock Brook and the confluence of the North Nashua River as you get close to Home Depot. And then that, on the map, shows basically the entire mall area being flooded. On the flood map, it's an elevation of 299, and that's based on a datum from NGVD 1929. A lot of today's elevations that are used in new mapping and surveying, we use the 1988 datum. So if you're going through the plans, if you already went through them, I have some verbiage in there. Basically, we converted the NGVD 29 datum to the 88, so we're talking apples to apples. So the flood elevation on this side is 298.22. This whole area here is above that elevation. So we're actually above the floodplain of this area. Although if you look at the old 1981 maps, it shows everything in it, we're actually above that. The flood line is back in here. And so what we're proposing to do is to basically restore that a major portion of that gravel area back to grass. As you drive along Commercial Road, coming from the mall area, you'll notice there's large areas of lawn, gently graded. We're basically going to continue that through this area, to continue that lawn area across. Blend in the grading with that. Right now it's a very steep slope. The banking down, I'm going to regrade that so it's more of a stable slope, and then restore it with loam and seed. And then on the top of the dike, over the years it started to get overgrown, and so what we'd like to do is kind of cut back this overgrowth and get it back to how it's mowed everywhere else. One of the concerns that the property owners had over the years and struggles is you do have people congregate on the downhill side of the dike. And as this overgrowth gets larger, it's tougher to see in there, so it becomes more protective, and so it's easier to kind of hide. So this is just a way for safety, so to open that up, so can hope kind of limit the amount of congregation on the back side of that part. That's a basic summary of the work.
I'll just say I did go on the sidewalk this afternoon with our agent, and based on what I saw, I mean, I think it'll be a tremendous improvement to what is there. They're not proposing to cut any trees or anything like that. It's basically a bunch of just really knotted up, overgrown vegetation up to the tree line that sits at the top of the hillside. And I think it'll help to really clear it up because there's a lot of trash and stuff that's sort of in there right now. It'll make that whole area look a little more uniform. Because if you drive by it now, it just really doesn't look great. And as Anthony said, it'll be hopefully help sight lines, keep people out from the back of there, and maybe keep it a little bit cleaner.
So the slope now is just,
Actually, I meant to make a copy.
oh,
Just pass it around.
Pass it around to everyone too. That's a picture of the area, and then you go to the next page. That's the grass, here's the area right there, that's the grass slope, and then this is looking down the earth embankment. So there's the overgrowth there.
so you basically just want to take this,
Continue that lawn right across.
just make this all the way over there.
Yeah, and we're coming down from here, right? Is it from this way or this way? From this way.
Like this.
Yeah. So kind of in between where the current landscaped area is and where they're going to be doing the work, there is a bunch of overgrowth in sort of a low-lying area there as well.
Yeah.
So they're going to take all of that out and just some kind of extra gravelly material and stuff that's been stored there for a while. And then they'll bring in the fill and stuff, right, to keep it at the same grade as what this other lawn is.
You just kind of blend it in, so it just continuation.
I think it'll be...
So like all this gravel and stuff, you're just gonna
Yep.
try to just grade it to that?
Yeah, just kind of grade it out. Right now, that's very steep.
Yeah.
Over the years, it just kind of got pushed
Just
up
push
and
up,
in.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
basically
kind of
it's
pull
a big
that back
dirt
down.
wall.
Yeah.
So it's this.
Yep,
So
that red.
yeah, so
circle.
they'll bring this lawn across. So this right here basically looks like a
So
giant
so
dirt
the elevation
wall.
here,
Because they were storing things here, I guess,
This is the lawn
and it's just
area.
gotten pushed. Yep. So they want to bring it back. They'll sort of
Just basically
cut this down a little bit, and they'll keep it
so
the
the
same
elevation,
grade.
the floodplain elevation,
It's just above 298.
right.
And our lowest grade in our work area is 300.
So this right here is 300,
Yes.
basically this,
Yep.
this flat plateau.
Yep. That's correct.
So you're a foot over even the 23 floodplain map
Yes.
of 299.
Yeah, so, yeah, right, and then with the conversion, we're actually close to almost 2 feet.
Right.
Right, so yeah.
I
so-
just know the whole mall's a floodplain. I just, every time
Exactly.
it mentions it, it's just floodplain essential and.
If you actually go onto FEMA's website, you'll see there's a lot of what they call LOMAs, letter of map amendments, in this area, where we've taken out of the floodplain all of the buildings around there, because everything is higher.
It's higher now.
Gravel and stuff like that. And then actually on the
So I think what
hillside
happened,
is where there's
kind
a
of
bunch
goes
of
back to the discussions we had
low-lying shrubbery,
on the Tesla
basically,
charging
that
station.
goes right up to the tree
Yeah.
line.
Kind of the whole history of the mall area.
Right.
And how the
And you'll
flood
have a
maps
much
are really
better
kind of
view and
based
it'll
on
look a lot nicer,
old
too.
topography.
It's right on trash hole.
So any fill you need
And
to bring in
that's
to
exactly what's happening right now.
smooth the
is
grade,
that
I guess,
all of that
is
low
all
land
will be
is just
outside of
fucking
the
trash.
Probably,
You know,
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's, you can kind of see it in, you can see it in this, a little bit in this picture here. There's a little bit of a hump. You can see on the contours, there's a little bit of a hump right here. This was actually just kind of a stockpiled loam area that was stabilized. So they're gonna take some of this loam and pull that in to really just kind of blend it in. You know?
Okay.
These are much better. You can see.
While the commissioners reviewing pictures, anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA?
Two lots. Yeah.
Second time and final time.
Just scrape it
Okay.
Oh, that's that shows that.
When is this proposed work to be done? In 2019 or 2020?
Well, we're trying to do it in 2019.
Yeah.
If weather
Get it done.
continues to cooperate and things work out, the contractor's ready to kind of get going out there. So what they try to do it this year, if time allows and weather allows.
Okay. Angela, do you have anything to add? I know you're on the site.
Yeah, I've been on the site a couple times. I think the first time I was on the site was a year and a half ago with the contractor who's going to be doing the work from One Oak Construction. And I kind of saw it before all the vegetation was in there. So basically, we walked to the top of the berm, and right below there's the about 15-foot pathway, and then there's the slope, and then there's the river. And all the work is taking place on the developed side. And I think it's going to be a great improvement because we kind of taking out all of the extra stuff there that is probably not the greatest. It's still it's impermeable still, but I believe that the grass will be better in that aspect of it. And I agree with the overgrowth cutback. Mainly because I was concerned with them taking down the trees. Once you start moving trees from the riverfront area, it does become concerning.
Correct.
But since they're going to be leaving all the trees there, I think the overgrowth cutback will only benefit the area, it'll create more visibility, make the job of our police a little easier.
You said it's just junk.
Yeah,
That
it's
overgrowth's just weedy.
it's pretty low lying. Like it's pretty low lying
Yeah.
vegetation mostly. Nothing more than an inch in
Yeah.
diameter, if that.
It's like,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other commission members have any questions or comments? Do you have a recommendation?
yes, I recommend that the commission issue a negative determination 3, with the condition that the agent will be notified before and after the vegetation clearing is finished.
Okay. And there's no erosion controls needed because it's just where it's positioned.
We actually showed them on our plan.
I believe there's a silt sack.
We showed straw wattles around the area,
Okay, just
just to make sure.
okay.
There is a silt sack as a catch basin over there.
Oh, there is a
Yeah.
difference.
Yep,
Okay.
wanna
Perfect.
make sure we don't have anything getting out. It shouldn't be an issue, but
I don't want to put my stormwater hat on.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, also, without a condition that no trees will be removed.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do Do I have a motion for a -3 determination with the added conditions per our agent?
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we issue a negative determination number 3 for this project with the added condition that no trees be removed and that the agent is notified before and after the vegetation clearing takes place.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
There's one more, right, in business.
Yeah.
That's this one.
That's new business, right? Anthony's here for new business?
Yes, Anthony is also new business.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Perfect, thank you so much.
All right, new business. Whitman and Bingham will be attending the meeting
Okay.
to address DEP comments for 199-1097, which is what property?
That is the Whitney Carriage Apartments for the lead remediation.
But what?
The lead remediation area, but the commission had voted on it before DEP had issued their comments, and DEP issued their comments, basically saying that, they'd like them to kind of remove impervious surface from another area to kind of make up for the increased impervious surface.
Okay.
But Anthony has a really
They're
good
putting in
seal.
new
Because
ADA parking spaces.
But
That's, I
Anthony has a
remember
really
that.
good
Yes.
seal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pure
Yeah, he
play.
does have a big space.
Please, no less pressure. What Angela said. My name is Anthony Cleese with Whitman and Bingham Associates, here on behalf of Whitney Carriage. So as was just being explained, it issued or approved the project. DEP had gone through their comments, and one of the areas where we had some remediation, we were required to have impervious surface put in order to remediate that area. So DEP came back and said, well, can you look at compensating for that added impervious surface by possibly removing impervious surface somewhere else? And they mentioned on the other side of the Noosnock Brook. So the property owner looked at that, and then so what you have in front of you, if you look on the kind of bottom, the blow-up side, the bottom left-hand part of that picture is the area of new paving, about 1,149 square feet. And then to the side of that, you have a new walkway. So that was the area that you had previously approved. That's the added impervious surface. Then you go to the top right-hand corner of that picture, across from the Noosnock Brook, there's an existing pavement area. So what they're basically proposing to do is to remove an equivalent area to compensate for that added impervious surface, and then restoring that with loam and seed.
Now, over there, because there's a bridge, I remember the bridge. Right now, it's an existing pavement.
Yeah, it was
Was
used
it
as
just
like
like-
a basketball court
I was gonna say
or
like a
something.
playground or
Yeah,
something like
It's
that.
where they wanted to put the playground, and when they came in for the playground, he had mentioned there was this pavement area that they've used for the kids probably
They were just
play on it,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Hoops and one on,
And they weren't gonna do anything with it as part of that project, so they're gonna that's what they're removing
So
part
just gonna
of.
So they're
to
removing the
compensate.
entire pavement area.
Just that area.
There's a still playground that you
Yeah.
had mentioned, the still playground's gonna go there, but basically an equivalent area. And what the property owner sketched out is essentially a 20-foot by 65.5-foot area, which will cover the amount of impervious surface that we're adding on the other side.
And that lumen seeded area is just going to abut up against, obviously, pavement on one side. What's around it on the other side? Basically, what's
I
around
think
it?
it's just,
It's all chain link fence.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
fenced in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That whole area is fenced in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like a little gate, kinda, when you cross this
Mhm.
footbridge, and then it's all fenced in around that whole
Okay.
area, back to the gate.
So the pavement's 1149, and you're looking at 1299.
Yeah, so
for
basically,
a little bit more than what.
1,300 square feet is kind of that magic number. I think it was like 1289 was the total added impervious, so they're gonna, take it about 1,300.
Okay. All right, so Angela, what do we need to do?
Nothing, basically, this plan will just be recorded with the order of conditions once we issue it.
Okay. So we were holding the order of conditions, waiting on DEP
Yes.
comments.
But we did vote on it, right?
Yes, we did vote on it, so we are,
So we're good there.
we're good to go. This is kind of, DEP's recommendation was just to kind of show the commission what the plan was.
Okay. And you have a copy of this new plan? So when it comes to the COC,
We'll be all
you won't have a cookout on that vast area?
I don't wanna,
Okay.
Do you have that electronically as
I
well?
do have
Okay,
it,
good.
yes.
Okay. So we don't need to vote or do anything like that?
Nope, it was just an informative, presentation.
Okay. Well, I think that's good. I mean, I totally understood why they needed to add that parking and that, so. If DEP's good with it, I'm definitely happy with it. So. Good. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Cleaver.
you very much for your time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for working around me this evening.
Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you.
If you
Have a
showed
good
up
night.
at 7:45, we've been angry.
We'd have been gone.
I'm like sitting here thinking, I did tell people not to come until 7:45. It was you, I was like, don't come until 7:45.
You never know.
Thanks again, have a good day.
Thank you.
You too.
449 Wachusett Street, that's the solar.
Yes, so the planning board, I did speak with the planning director, Elizabeth Wood, as well as I have reviewed the meeting minutes. Basically, from my understanding and from my communication with her, they decided to go that route because the applicant, it worked, as he explained to us, it worked better for them. It was easier for them to do the replication area, especially where the fire department's requiring a 20-foot road, which is part of our regulations. I spoke to him as well about it to kind of see, is it possible to be a variance of it? And his concern was, absolutely, you can most definitely ask for a waiver for it, but they didn't ask for a waiver for that. They had asked for a waiver for the fence, they had asked for the height of the fence, for the type of fence. They had already asked for a bunch of other waivers. And kind of our conversation was, why we have these rules for a reason. These regulations were set in place for a reason. If they ask for waivers for everything, it's kind of like difficult, as well as it makes it challenging in the winter time if they're trying to go down that road with wetlands on either side. For a fire, if there was a fire up there, or if there was an ATV accident up there or something, it'd be very difficult for the fire trucks and ambulances to get up in the middle of winter if a snowmobile accident, if the road wasn't full 20 feet.
Okay.
So, that's where I got, I also spoke to DCR, and I didn't find out the location of the Wachusett watershed, but they did confirm that a very small corner of it is in there, and then I told the applicant, to investigate it further, just to present to the commission, which is why they weren't able to be here tonight, because they weren't getting a call back from the state.
Okay. So currently on this project, obviously, which is continued.
Yeah.
So now we're just waiting to hear back from the applicant in his discussion with DCR.
Yes.
And so the planning board does not want to grant access through the.
Well, it's not that they don't want it, it's that they've already approved their watershed permit. This kind of spurred a conversation between myself and Elizabeth. She feels that all projects should go through the Conservation Commission first before they go through the planning board. Just so incidents like this where we would where the commission seems to prefer that the road be built on the existing roadway,
Right.
where they prefer it, and they recommended that it not that they recommended, but they approved it to not be built on the existing roadway, where if it had come before us first, that issue may have been avoided.
Okay.
So, we did discuss that.
Okay. Okay. So they should, hopefully they hear back and they should be here at the next meeting.
Yes, that's the goal.
Okay.
They kind of just wanted to address everything at once and only do one plan revision,
Right.
ideally.
Okay. Perfect. Meeting minutes for July 16th. Where do we stand on that?
Did everyone review them?
We're all here, right?
I don't know. I know I haven't missed many. So.
I don't know off the top of my head.
We can do it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Just-
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Should I look at those before?
Even if you weren't here, as long as you can still vote on them and read them.
Right, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was here though, so.
Moose Brook, still waiting.
Yep, so we were working on the MVP permit for this one. I've actually joined the steering committee for this, the MVP permit for the city. I've had too much caffeine. I'm sorry. So I'm on the steering committee for it. This is kind of one of the projects that's going to be involved. There will be a number of meetings that the public's invited to. Obviously, the board will be invited to attend these meetings to kind of discuss our vulnerability. So I'll make sure I keep you guys in the loop when those meetings are.
Okay,
Cool.
perfect. Enforcement, 375 Harvard Street.
I spoke with them after the last meeting, let them know that they could not move the replication area, and I have not heard anything from them since. I was gonna give them a couple weeks to maybe finish planting and go out there and do another site inspection, and come back in October with.
So you basically said, no, you can't move it. They said, fine, we'll continue.
Yeah, and I got prepared to watch all the meetings for 375 Harvard Street, but luckily the commission had discussed at the first meeting in February, I think of 2018 or 17, that they would use an area that was not wetlands to drop the trucks in and go over and do the replication area. And it was highlighted on a set of plans as well that Mr. Cleves had turned in. So I sent them the clip as well as the plans, where they agreed to it, so.
Okay, perfect. Please keep us informed, because I know they're over their enforcement
Yes.
window, and I know we gave them some kind of an
Leeway.
extension, so hopefully we can, well, I would make sure you emphasize with them we expect it to be done this fall. See, we've given them an extension, so. Any further discussion? All right, 909 Elm Street.
So this is currently before the planning board for its watershed permit, so they haven't done anything other than kind of cleaning up the area. As soon as the planning board approves their special permit, they will begin moving the wall out of the riverfront area. There are erosion controls in place already.
Okay. This is need to sign enforcement order. What's that mean?
We did that the last meeting I submitted it.
Okay. I kind of thought, but that's all right.
No, we did that the last meeting.
Okay. All right, 66 Granite Street, the gardener spot.
Yeah, so I did reach out to Mr. Zaney a few times. He's in Pennsylvania currently on a business trip, so
Okay.
he will call me back as soon as he gets back in town.
I'm a little concerned because of the issues we've been having over the last few years. Mr. Morrow is representing him, which he no longer represents him. I'm just a little afraid that this is going to continue to go on. Is there any way we could send a certified letter, some sort of communication stating, you know, we request either yourself or your representative to be at the next meeting, basically.
Absolutely.
You know, the first issue still really hasn't been resolved, and now this one, I mean, at this point, we're just looking for information, to talk about what people have seen in the complaint we had gotten from the neighbor and whatnot, just to see where it's going at. I'm sick of pushing the can down the road, so some sort of formal certified, not an enforcement order at this point, because we don't even know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I just want some formal communication. I mean, I think we've given enough leeway on emails and phone calls. Maybe if we can send just, correct me if it's certified, registered, I don't know the difference between, where they have to sign that they've received it.
Absolutely.
Just stating that we do require your presence or representative at the October 8th meeting. And, you know, please bring any information of what, you know more what we're talking about. Because I don't know if it was you or the neighbor, you were involved in
Yeah, I
what
saw some work that was being done as well as the
Yeah,
neighbors have.
just
so.
kind of, I just want something formal so we hopefully get him or his representative here so we can discuss that.
Will do. in addition to that, I did speak to Judy over at the state, and she's kind of she's been doing it the longest, so she has the most experience in agricultural exemptions. And she said she would have no problem coming down and working with the commission. Tuesday nights do work best for her, she said, so I think maybe we could schedule a Tuesday night, either when we have not so many meetings, I mean, not so many projects, and maybe
Right.
Tuesday night we could put her in at the beginning.
Okay.
I think that would be super helpful.
Yeah,
Because I
that'd
feel like
Or
we keep talking about the same thing, and then we all keep coming back to the same conclusion of, well, we don't really know. So
Right.
do that, or maybe we could do like for the first Tuesday of a month, have her come in.
And that's
Just
fine,
have
yeah,
to
just so we
special-
can get,
Get together.
Education, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to be very careful because of open meeting laws, we will discuss any projects or make any sort of
Okay.
decisions.
Just a general education of,
Yeah,
of
just like a training.
agricultural
well, that's what I mean,
exemptions.
I guess
Ask
it's,
questions.
I have
Yeah, I
have the
think that's
list,
helpful.
I kinda have that list
Yeah.
that we've been going on for years now. That's kind of what, there's certain ones that are very explicit.
Yeah.
And some that we are in question, and that's kind of nice to ask her, saying, well, what does this mean? What this exemption means is,
Right.
So, she said Tuesdays do work best for her, so I can schedule something. I was gonna wait until maybe like November,
Yeah, I
That's
think that'd be
fine.
helpful.
just so maybe hopefully things will slow down.
yeah,
Yeah, because I have a bunch of questions.
right. So that would be good, but
That'd be great.
But yeah, I would definitely like to send something formal, just so
Yeah.
it's kind of,
And I may even put it out to other commissions in the
Yeah.
area, so it's kind of, we're gonna have the training anyways, the free training. Might as well share the wealth.
tell them to bring the snacks.
I was gonna
The
say,
other
I'm gonna
commission,
be,
yeah.
the other commissions.
I'm gonna be supplying pizza.
That's payment. is
It's a potluck.
yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Drop a snack in the basket out the door.
That's correct.
Or you are not allowed to come.
Correct. Okay.
Something that represents
Multiple snacks then.
our city.
Sam will be the bouncer.
For this letter, this commission, okay, if Angela drafts the letter and sends it, do we want to have a vote? Do we want to review the letter? Basically, I would like to see the letter basically just stating, hey, this concerns were brought to our attention. All I'm asking is that he or his representative be here at the next
We
meeting.
need something.
That's all we want this letter, so.
Yeah, I would say maybe. I mean, it's up to you. Would you like to review the letter?
Me personally,
Or
I
do you
mean,
think that?
I trust Andy's discretion.
I don't personally care
Yeah.
either way. I mean, it's
Me
not
too.
very technical. We're just
Right.
asking somebody officially to
Right.
so.
She's pretty good at this, so I trust her. To,
No, I trust her
I
too.
trust her to.
If it was
You're
much
really
more.
complimenting me tonight, it's making me uncomfortable.
He brought us candy. We're all hopped up on sugar.
So, okay. Angie, if you could do that, that would be fantastic, and just get that out as soon as possible, so we, All right, any further discussion on that? All right, emergency certifications,
None of this time.
perfect. Just quick back to Sawtell, I know Matt Morrow said he's under review. Have you been in communication with him on that at all, or?
Yeah. They wanted their certificate of compliance, and I told them, well, you need to make sure everything's done and submit, all the paperwork.
Right.
So nothing's been submitted yet, because I believe he's still trying to certify that the wetland's been replicated.
Okay.
I believe it has, it's most definitely extended farther than even what the plans show. So it's just kind of waiting on his report.
Okay.
And then obviously.
Because that's all it
paperwork.
is a COC up there.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna actually take that for the next meeting, because
That's fine. Okay, I just wanted to, I just couldn't remember, but now that you remember, it's just a certificate of compliance, so.
are there any other project requests that anyone would like for the next meeting?
No, I don't think so. How's the city look?
It's looking beautiful, it's fall. Did a
Hasn't
great
rained
job-
much, so you don't have to worry
Did
about
a
it.
great job with the flowers downtown.
Budget, you have nothing for us, thank you.
I had a budget poll this from like 2 months ago.
Next meeting is October 8th with a filing deadline of this past Friday. Anything else that the commission needs to discuss at this time?
Sir.
All right, and with that, I declare this meeting adjourned.